What's going on, everyone? This is Mortgage Monday. I'm David Green. I'm here with Christian Batchelder, and today we are going to be talking about some updates from the Sitzer-Burnett lawsuit fallout, where the way that real estate agent commissions and the process is structured was changed in a pretty significant and drastic manner. Christian and I are going to be talking about concerns that the National Association of Realtors has, ways that the industry has changed, and some ways that it stayed the same, as well as strategies that you can use to save yourself money when buying real estate and make sure you pick the right people to help you on your journey. All that and more in today's episode of Mortgage Mondays. Christian Batchelder, welcome to Mortgage Mondays. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How you doing, David?
I'm glad to hear that. We're both wearing polo shirts. We have collars. We look professional, and we're bringing everybody a professional article. This is related to the Sitzer-Burnett, often referred to as the bombshell lawsuit that dropped on the real estate industry that changed some of the ways that real estate commissions are done. There's been a lot of fake news or misinformation in clickbait articles about this. So it's often talked about like the end of the 6% commission. I don't know why they said it. That literally had nothing to do with the lawsuit. But if you haven't heard of this in general, a case was filed against brokers and the National Association of Realtors with the way that they sell houses. Now, the National Association of Realtors had a rule that if you want to sell your house in the multiple listing service, also called the MLS, which is where realtors bring their clients to look at houses, you would have to offer compensation to a buyer's agent because that's where buyer's agents were bringing their clients. And that compensation could be as low as 1 penny, but you had to do something. You could not put your house in the MLS and say, we are not going to pay a buyer's agent, because that wasn't really fair to the buyer's agents who were bringing their clients to look at houses in the MLS. So there was a rule between all realtors that if you put your house in the MLS as a seller, you have to pay a buyer's agent something, but that was always negotiable. Well, the court did not like that. And they came back and said, you do not have to pay a buyer's agent to put your house in the MLS. Furthermore, we want buyers to have to pay their own agents, and they're going to have to sign an agreement with an agent before they even go look at houses. And that agreement will specify how much the buyer will pay their own agent. Now, sellers are still able to offer a compensation, which in some cases, maybe even many cases, would be wise, because if they don't offer compensation, that's one more thing that a buyer has to pay for. When you're buying a house, the buyer's already having to pay for inspections that are going to be done on the property. I'm buying one right now. They're probably around $2,000 to $2,500 worth of inspections that have to be done. Buyers have to pay the closing costs. Buyers have to pay for title and escrow fees, and buyers have to pay the down payment. And that's not including all the work that has to be done after they purchase the house to make repairs and fix the house up, furnish it. There's a lot that goes into buying a house. Now, in many cases, buyers are also going to have to pay their own agent, but this is going to be the new normal. So Christian and I will be talking today about how this settlement has been playing out since it occurred and what changes to the industry we've been seeing. You ready to do this, Christian?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's about time. It's gone on long enough for us to kind of get a stance on where we see the industry going. I'm excited to chat about it.
Yeah, so here's the short answer if you're only going to listen this far in the video. It hasn't changed a whole lot. Now, a lot of these changes that have been mandated to take place haven't actually had to happen yet. So people are already kind of shifting around and planning to do things differently. More agents are signing buyer-broker representation agreements. Like the David Green team has always done this, but other agents are getting on board with the fact that they need to do it too. But I don't think that there's been a huge difference in the way business has been going down. There is concerns mentioned by the National Association of Realtors of agents being accused of steering. You want to explain what steering is, Christian?
Those of us in the industry, this is something that we were thinking when this case first came up that could be a ramification of this case that seemed like, a lot of people that just kind of watched it on the news, they thought, this is like the knights in shining armor coming to combat against the bad, greedy realtors, right? But a lot of times lawsuits aren't just black and white. There's good points on both sides, but really a side effect now that we're seeing is for the properties that are following what the point of this lawsuit is, right? Not guaranteeing a compensation to the buyer's agent. So let's just play out an example. If I'm listing my house with the David Green team, I'm the owner, David's my agent. Let's say I don't want to pay the buyer's agent. I'll pay David. David's providing a listing service. That's fine. You're working for me. You're my agent, but I don't want to compensate the buyer's agent, as this lawsuit now says you don't have to. Now the National Association of Realtors is getting concerned because if that property now goes on market and let's say my neighbor simultaneously decides to list my property, but pay the buyer's commission, is there going to be a motivation from the buyer's agent now to show the house that guarantees him payment? Or is he going to want to push somebody into buying my house that should have an equal play on the market, but the realtor is probably going to be, motivated to steer towards the place that his commission is guaranteed and would not become a closing cost and expense to his buyer, right? It's covered by the seller.
This is a tricky thing for agents to be in, okay? So Christian, you and I, we are both licensed brokers. We are investors. So we see what this looks like from the agent or the broker side. We also see what this looks like from a buyer side. We've also sold properties before. So we see what this looks like from the seller side. And basically the right way to do something, whether it's should I pay a commission? Should I not pay a commission? Should I pay a high commission? Should I pay a low commission? There's no right answer for this. The uninformed person will think it's always better for a seller to offer a lower commission because now they're saving money. So greedy agents are telling them that they should pay a higher commission. But it's really a function of supply and demand. If you have a property that's going to get a lot of offers, there's not enough inventory, there's more demand than supply. In many cases, you don't have to pay or offer as high of a commission to a buyer's agent. You might even get away with offering nothing. And if 12 offers are coming on your house, the buyer's going to have to pay their own commission. But we're also assuming if that buyer is beating out 11 other offers, they have enough money to write a competitive offer, and therefore they have enough money to pay their agent. But it is not always the case that that's going on. There's several markets across the country where the days on market has doubled or tripled from what it was before. So in those markets, if you're a seller and you've got a house for sale and you're not offering a commission to the buyer's agent, which means your buyer has to pay their own commission. Christian, if you're the buyer, are you going to prioritize a house where you have to pay your own agent a significant amount of money, or are you going to target a house where the seller is going to be paying your agent that money?
Of course. And this is what the National Association of Realtors, NAR, is structuring this as agents could be steering. But just like David said, I think it's going without being said that if the buyers have to pick up that agent fee otherwise, like if it's have the seller pay it or I pay for it myself, the buyers are going to steer themselves. They're going to go to the house that costs them less out of pocket. And if that means going to a house that has the buyer's agent fee already guaranteed, absolutely. David, if you're asking me personally, am I going to want to go add 2 to 3% of the purchase price onto as a closing cost that I don't need? Of course, I'm going to be motivated to go buy the house that the agent is going to pay my agent, right?
Now, let's say that you, as a buyer, have to pay your own agent a 3% commission rate, because that's what most people in their minds are expecting. On a $400,000 house, that's $12,000. That is not just $12,000 total. That is in addition to the 5, 10, 15, 20% that you might have to put down on that house. That's in addition to all your other closing costs. That's in addition to the make ready costs that you're going to have to do and your lender's closing costs, right? So at this stage, as an agent, as a fiduciary, you either don't tell your client the truth, that if they don't want to pay a buyer's agent commission, it could significantly hurt them, or you do tell them the truth and you get accused of steering. And now this is also going to happen if you're a buyer's agent, right? If you're a buyer's agent and your client has to pay you that $12,000, but you know that if you find a house that's offering you, the agent, the commission paid by the seller, it's going to save your client $12,000. Now you're in a position where if I don't tell them that this house pays a commission that you don't have to pay, they're potentially having to throw $12,000 away that they wouldn't have had to. But you could get accused of steering if you're prioritizing houses where the seller pays you instead of your own client. So you're stuck. It's like, well, am I protecting my client from having to pay me, or am I exposing myself to being accused of steering because I'm directing them towards properties where I'm getting paid from the other side instead of getting paid from them? If I'm a buyer, I would want my agent to prioritize houses that I don't have to pay the commission on. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a very dangerous dynamic where you're basically stuck between your fiduciary duty to the buyer in this theoretical situation, right? I'm not saying this for every listing, but David, in the one that you're referencing here, I'm stuck between the fiduciary interest to save my buyer 12 grand of cash out of pocket and steering. And either way, I'm going to be accused of something, right? I'm either accused of not keeping my client's best interest in mind, or I'm accused of steering them to the property that has the real estate fee covered. And you can't win. It's putting these agents in this rock and a hard place that's like, hey, no matter what you do, you're wrong. And like, I don't think that's what we were trying to accomplish with this lawsuit. I mean, these are side effects when these decisions are made that aren't really taking into account all sides. Like, these are the side effects that we run into. It's like you're putting agents in this place where it's going to become very, very difficult to succeed without being accused of something in every other article.
Now, here's another difference with the way things are going to go down. It was originally intended to protect buyers and sellers from having to pay commissions if they didn't have to. But with the new way that it's worked out, as a buyer, you have to sign an agreement with an agent before they can take you to look at houses. And that's one of the most practically bad outcomes of this decision. As a person choosing a real estate agent, I don't usually know if I can trust this person, if I'm going to like working with this person, if we're going to have a great relationship when I first meet you. It's kind of nice when you could go look at houses with an agent and see how responsive are they? Do they answer their phone? Do they prioritize me? Do they work around my schedule? Do they expect me to work around their schedule? Do they give me the information I asked for, or do I have to go get it myself? So if you're listening to this, I highly recommend that you do serious due diligence in choosing your agent as opposed to just due diligence on the property. Because it used to be not a big deal. You could get into a relationship with an agent. You could get out of a relationship with an agent. You could find the one that you like and then you stick with it. There's going to be a lot more due diligence that needs to be done. And if you want some advice on where to find people to do that due diligence on, BiggerPockets has an agent finder tool as well as a lender finder tool. So you can go look up people there. Christian and I are both on there. You can ask questions of the person you're considering using and vet them out. You need to get a feel for what it's going to be like to work with them and make your expectations very clear. But you can start that process by using the agent finder tool. And you can do that by going to biggerpockets.com/agent match. Now, NAR is very concerned about being accused of steering, and steering is terrible. It's when agents are basically not showing you everything that could be out there. They're trying to push you into the properties they want you to buy. This became a thing in the past when agents would steer certain ethnicities into certain neighborhoods or steer ethnicities away from certain neighborhoods. And then that became illegal. And now NAR is concerned that their agents could be opened up to allegations of steering because the commission thing, it makes everything trickier when some sellers are offering commissions and some sellers are not. Christian, you work in the mortgage industry. You know about how expensive it can be to buy a house. You bought several of them yourself. What's your advice for somebody who doesn't have a ton of capital, is trying to break into real estate? It's already a competitive market. They're trying to save as much money as they can. What would you advise someone like that to do when it comes to paying their real estate agents, choosing the listings, choosing a loan product, etc.?
This is tough because it really feels like the cards are being stacked against your favor. But I mean, I feel kind of my easy answer that I always have. If you're getting advice and guidance from the right people. So if you're wanting an agent, have this conversation with your agent. Like, have the steering conversation. Have the conversation with your loan officer that says, hey, what if I fall in love with a house that doesn't have the real estate commission covered? Like, how does that impact my closing cost, right? If you're going into something advised and educated on it, just like the same way that I wish these lawyers, right, who went through NAR, like, part of me kind of wishes they went and learned all these steering rules that we had to learn when we got our license, David. Like, all these things that exist for reasons, we're kind of stepping on those a little bit now. Right. And there's some unforeseen consequences now that are developing because of it. I don't think that really this expands beyond real estate advice in life, that education and the pursuits of bettering your knowledge base is ever going to do you wrong, whether that's in your financial, saving more money or budgeting or understanding closing costs, asking the hard questions, right? Understanding you have an agent that, hey, I understand steering's a thing, but like, it is important to me that we get a house that covers your commission because I need your guidance. Right. And this comes down to finding an agent that you think is worth commission so that you can get their guidance. Don't use, the person who sells one house a year, maybe, and they're part-time and they don't really have time for you. And they tell you to go schedule your own open houses on Zillow appointments. Work with an agent that you think is worth what they're getting paid. Right. Same with me. Same with your lender. Right. If you feel the lender's not worth what they're making, don't work with them. Right? Move on. Find somebody that you feel is a better match for you. But ultimately, if you have those people that you are comfortable and confident with their commission and their earnings, right? Nobody in real estate runs a nonprofit, right? It's obviously everything is a for-profit business. But if you can surround yourself with people that you feel confident in their services, them getting paid doesn't become a negative. It becomes a positive. Everybody does better on that deal. You get better service, potentially a better negotiated deal, a better loan, a lower interest rate, and you're happy to compensate the people that helped guide you towards that.
Yes. Let me offer a piece of advice before we wrap here. Make your expectations incredibly clear with everyone that you're going to be using to represent you in a transaction. When you find a real estate agent, you need to make it very clear. Here's what I'm expecting of you. Give them a list. Is anything on that list unreasonable or something you cannot accommodate? Same for your loan officer. Hey, here's what I'm expecting. Am I out of pocket? Or is this something that you can do? Here's what I'd like from you, right? It might be like when I get a closing disclosure, I'd like the opportunity to jump on the phone and ask you questions about it if I don't understand what I'm reading. Is that okay? Or if you're going to send me something to sign, I'd like a text message that says, I sent you something. Here's some times that we can talk on the phone if we want to go over it. You need, as the investor or the buyer, to take the responsibility in your own hands of what you're expecting from the person that's going to be serving you. That was always good advice. It's extra crucial right now because now you may be locked into a relationship with that person that you can't get out of. So you need to do more due diligence up front. Now, remember, you're listening to Bigger Pockets. You're listening to Mortgage Monday. You're consuming this information. So it does give you an advantage over other people in the market that don't know how this goes. So take courage, my dear friends. You're in the right place and you're doing the right things. We will continue to bring you updates about the new Sitzer-Burnett fallout and how it's changing the real estate industry. But remember, now is the time to be consuming more content, to be educating yourself more than ever before. I think that the way that this plays out is that it's going to be harder for your average Joe to buy a house, which is going to give an advantage to the professional home buyers that you are competing with over these same assets. And we want to see the power in the hands of you, the Bigger Pockets community. You can find Christian and I both in Cancun at Bigger Pockets Conference in person. Go to biggerpockets.com/events where you can get your ticket and meet us in person. We'd love to shake your hand, take a picture with you, give you a hug, and see what we can do to help you on your real estate investing journey. Take a second to leave a comment and let us know what is the craziest story that you ever had with a real estate agent. We want to know in the comments something that blew your mind that you couldn't believe happened from a real estate agent. And on a future episode, we might just talk about it. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you get told when new episodes of Mortgage Monday come out. If you've got a minute, check out another Bigger Pockets video. And if not, we will see you next week on Mortgage Monday.